In quantum mechanics, one entangled particle affects the behavior of another, even if they are on opposite sides of the universe. How long before we build a transporter like the one in Star Trek? Unless teleportation has already been invented. In 1878, a newspaper from India reported the successful teleportation of animals. In the age of man's greatest progress in electrical engineering, the light bulb, the telephone, the phonograph. The Bombay Journal reported a transmission apparatus consisting of a large metal disc and a glass bell jar, the size of a man. A dog that was placed inside, quote, was reduced into infinitesimal atoms, transmitted and reproduced, safe and sound, at the other end of the apparatus, end quote. Still contentedly chewing a bone. Only 2 years later, and 5,000 miles away, engineer William Cantelo was designing a water-cooled machine gun. Cantelo was already a successful inventor with several English patents. He was the landlord of the Old Tower Inn, which stood next to Arundel Tower in Southampton, England, where he lived with his family. Southampton, a busy harbor city, had so many wine cellars that you could walk from one side of town to the other completely underground. In one such tunnel, Cantelo built his workshop. The few townspeople that saw Cantelo's workbench reported metallic globes that made a humming noise, and machines flashing with strange lights. But on Saturday afternoons, the public heard the muffled sound of rapid gunfire. They smelled the sulfur of spent gunpowder. For years, Cantelo had been locking himself into his subterranean workshop. He might not reappear for days, or for weeks. Where was he getting his food, other than one small meal packed by his wife? Where was he getting water? He was only one city block from the English Channel. Any well water would be too salty to drink. His 2 sons always begged to see what he was working on, but he always said no. Better safe than sorry. His boys were accustomed to hearing such advice. It came straight out of his book of maxims, of which Cantelo was extremely fond, and which he carried always. One day, the 2 young men secretly watched their father. The day he forgot to throw the bolt on his workshop door. They did not see the gun. It was locked away, double locked, in a special closet. But they saw their father walk into a freestanding cabinet, which was large enough to hold 1 man. They heard an electrical discharge. They saw a bright light. When he did not come out, they rushed over to open the chamber door, to find that father had completely vanished. Existing machine guns all required manual feeding of ammunition, including the Nordenfeldt gun being used by Germany, the Gardner gun of Great Britain, and the Gatling gun used in America during the war between the states. Any man who could improve upon the machine gun could make a great deal of money. by selling it to the government. Any government. In 1880, Cantelo announced to the newspapers that he invented the first automatic machine gun. Then Cantelo told his family he needed to take a business holiday, about 3 months, in order to sell the weapon. He took the gun with him. Before leaving, he just had to visit his workshop one more time. Half a year later, when he still had not returned, his sons broke through the workshop door, which was bolted from the inside. But they found nothing. The place was gutted. All the inventions, all the tools, gone. All except for the workbench itself, stained and scarred, which was too heavy for one man to move. Cantelo would never return. Coincidentally, another inventor appeared in England shortly after Cantelo's disappearance. He said his name was Hiram S. Maxim, and he claimed to be from the U.S. He sold his newest invention to the British government, a rapid-fire machine gun, fully automatic and water-cooled. He made the news, along with engravings of his weapon and of his portrait. When the sons of William Cantelo saw these images in the newspaper, first they cried, "Our gun!" Then they shouted, "Our da!" The resemblance to their father was more than uncanny. He was staying in Waterloo, the paper said. The two young men loitered for 7 days at Waterloo Station. When finally they caught sight of him, he was leaving the station. The conductor announced the departure of the train. The boys ran up to Maxim from behind. Together they called out, "Da!" The man turned and said, "Boys, what can I do for you?" They answered, "Come and see Mother." But it was too late. Maxim swung back around and climbed into the train, which was already moving out. Returning home, the boys gave their mother the good news. Father was alive and living under a different name. When they learned his location again, the Cantelo brothers journeyed to the upper-scale neighborhood of Baldwin's Park, because this American now resided in London, in a big house which he bought. The first time they announced themselves at the front door, they saw him leaving from the rear, in a 2-wheeled horse-drawn cart. After that, he would never allow them admission to the house. Whenever Mr. Maxim ran into a resident of Southampton, he would often be hailed as Cantelo. He always avoided conversation. The Royal Armory was shown a photograph of Cantelo posing next to his machine gun. The authorities confirmed the weapon appeared the same as the Maxim gun. When in the United States, Hiram S. Maxim led a life which closely resembled Cantelo's. He was the same age. He was a successful inventor with a string of American patents, a hair-curling iron, a steam-operated pump, a mousetrap, and he published a scientific paper claiming to have developed a technology to be used for teleportation. This information led the Cantelo brothers to believe their father had been living a double life, teleporting himself backwards and forwards between 2 continents perhaps for years. After their final attempt to make contact, Mr. Maxim sent to the boys one single letter. He claimed he was from America and not the Isle of Wight. But how did Mr. Maxim know that William Cantelo was born on the Isle of Wight? Unless they were the same man. In closing the letter, for the last time, he refused to see the family. Mr. Maxim went down in history as the inventor of the weapon. This American remained in England for the rest of his life, and he was buried there. He died in 1916. Funeral services were held without the benefit of clergy, according to his will. This same request was also stated in the will of Mr. Cantelo. But Cantelo's body has never been found.
I have seen some of the experiments shown in this film actually carried out